Hello and welcome to the Bears, Birds, and Brews podcast. This is a show about the Chicago Bears, the Atlanta Falcons, and craft beer. My name is
And soda.
Asif Right. I was about to say my name is Nabil Alani, but that was Nabil Alani. My name is Asif Lakhani. That is Nabil Alani. And on today's episode, we have some super awesome special guests with us. Tell them who y'all are.
So my name is Saif Basaria, and with me is my buddy
Nabil Hassanali.
And we are two of the four co-hosts of the Waterboy and Equipment Manager podcast. For those of you on socials, it's at WBEM Pod, WebM Pod. And we are a podcast about basketball, strictly basketball, which is why we were like, hey, we want to talk football. So who should we go to? Well, the best goddamn football podcast that we know, which is right here. And so I know you guys do this thing where you introduce the drinks that you guys will be drinking. And so I wanted to introduce this. It's a local brewery here in Atlanta. It's headquartered here in Atlanta, and they're Coca-Cola, which is what I will be sipping on today. It's a really small, it's a small mom and pop. It's really tiny. It's used for curing headaches and other diseases, from what I've been told, and it's delicious.
Nice.
It's just addictive.
Now is this the one with the Coke or without the Coke?
This one is not classic, this is So this is for the clean and only caffeine fiends like myself. I'm sure there's a level above this one. Gotcha.
Okay, I don't know if it was diet Cokeless without Coke. I don't know. To each their own.
Yeah.
Well, hey, local Atlanta beverage. We love that on the show, right?
Exactly.
We love it. So
Well,
Bill, what you got?
So I think I'm drinking a Chicago beverage. Actually, I believe Untitled Art's from Chicago. I should know this, but I'm pretty sure they are.
Tallahassee, no? I thought it was
Is
from
it
Tallahassee.
Oh, well, now I'm confused.
Or maybe that's Ology. I don't know.
All right, well, I'm drinking Untitled Art CBD sparkling water. I do dry January, or at least half a dry January. Non-alcoholic right now. Let's go and try those.
So Nabil, Untitled Art is from Madison, Wisconsin, by the way. Shout out to
I was closer.
Yeah, you were closer.
I'm wearing a Chris Farley Bears shirt, so that's Madison, Wisconsin right there.
Oh, okay. I didn't know he was from there. But so I'm a big CBD enthusiast, potentially sometimes a THC enthusiast. You know, it's my podcast. I can say it, whatever, right? But I will say that I've had the CBD beverage before that you're drinking, the Bill. What compelled you to finally do it? You're just trying something different for a dry January. And how do you like the lime flavor? Because that's a really good one.
Just trying something different for dry January. I may have kombucha. I don't know how it's pronounced, to be honest, but I'll probably have that next week. And CBD might as well. I mean, I could have popped a LaCroix, but that just seems kind of simple.
Oh, yeah.
But I do have a LaCroix right here as well. So.
Well, I'm hurt considering I cracked a goddamn Coca-Cola.
You know what? I think that kind of worked. That worked quite well, I'll say.
It was a good little transition.
I just want to feel included in the brews of the podcast. That's all.
You are included.
Well,
you are included.
You are included. And because I knew Nabil wasn't going to be drinking today, we had to do a collab and get, WBEM Pod at WBEM Pod on all the socials on the show. We're doing a collab with them, so I'm drinking the collab beer. And this is Equilibrium and Great Notion Brewing. It's called Juice Equals Juice, batch number 2. It's a double India Pale Ale. And Equilibrium Brewery, Nabil, as you know, it's a pretty good one.
I like Equilibrium. Great
area.
Notion, I like even better. So.
Yeah, and Great Notion is from Seattle. Is that right? Or Washington, somewhere on the West Coast? Portland. So we've had them on the show before, and we had their stouts. And so to get them in an IPA was really great. Shout out to Stout Brothers in downtown Roswell and the Coca-Cola factory in downtown Atlanta for sponsoring this week's beverages.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, okay. I just got to say, we got a lot of football talk to talk about. There are, let's get right to it, right? The Falcon season is over. Is this like a eulogy?
Thank God.
This is a celebration, man.
About goddamn time.
I mean, this is the beginning. I mean, this is the start of a new era. I mean, Falcons season's over. Okay. Falcons did lose yesterday, right? They lost to.
Yeah, they gave up 44 points. So
and they scored 27.
They lost to Tampa Bay. Yeah, Nabil just absolutely left you here.
Just got yeeted out the
Well,
Zoom.
that's the beauty of us being here. You're not alone. We're
It's a
here
collab.
with you.
It's a collab.
Yeah, the
It's a
Falcons
collab
lost.
episode, baby.
Surprise, surprise, the Falcons lost yet again. So that's not that big a deal because we're used to that at this point, right?
I dropped the ball like the Falcons, but I'm back.
That was an elaborate joke, my friend. A very elaborate one, I would say.
He had that plan. He just
go
didn't
back
tell
and
us.
listen to this episode once we record it and see what was said while he was gone, because that actually worked out perfectly. But to your point, the Falcons season is over, and like you said, not only is the season over, it's really the end of an era in Atlanta Falcons football, right? Because Dan Quinn and Thomas Dimitroff were here for 5 years. Then Dan Quinn was gone. Raheem Morris has been around for a little bit. Dirk Cutter, we all know it's his second go around with Atlanta. Like, you're talking about
been here for like 10 years.
Yeah, Dimitrov's been here through the Mike Smith era.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and so that's true too, right? Because not only are the Falcons moving on from a GM or from a head coach, they're also moving on from a GM and some assistants who have had a lot of history in the organization. But it's a complete, like, 2021 is a new world. 2021 Atlanta Falcons football is going to be unlike anything we've seen in the last decade plus, honestly, right? Because no Thomas Dimitroff. So, I mean, it's a really, really exciting time to be a Falcons fan, I guess, because you still have a franchise quarterback. You still have some elite playmakers. And I wanted
to ask you about this because I've gotten a lot of different responses from Falcons fans. Do we have a franchise quarterback? So what I mean is, let me clarify. I do like Matt Ryan. I still believe in Matt Ryan as a quarterback if given the right system coach that gives a shit about him and the offense. Right. But it is a debate that's at least worth considering, right? Is it, you got the fourth overall pick or around there, if I'm not mistaken.
Fourth overall pick, yep.
Is it worth having that discussion now?
I think Atlanta, sorry, I don't mean to, take this away.
Go for it, yeah.
In my eyes, Atlanta is preparing for the future and seeing what they can do now. When we talk about an end of an era, regardless of, I love Matt. I think Matt is probably one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the NFL in terms of how we look at his career. With that being said, Atlanta is definitely looking into the future because they don't see a future much longer with Matt Ryan. There have been those reports of the trade rumors of Julio Jones and Matt Ryan. I don't really believe those because I don't think anyone wants to take on Matt's salary, to be quite honest. But I do believe that in the draft this year, if a quarterback ends up falling into their laps, that they will take that quarterback to sit behind Matt, take a couple years to learn under the system, and then they're going to throw him out there, and Matt's going to be a part of Atlanta Falcons history.
So so the first mock draft has dropped. So we are officially in mock draft season. Mm-hmm. The first mock draft has dropped. In this first mock draft, with the number 4 overall pick, they had the Falcons taking Zach Wilson from BYU. That'll probably be the only quarterback in reach because with the way Justin Fields went off against Clemson, he's probably going to go 2 or someone's going to trade up to 2 for him. Now, will Zach Wilson be there at 4? I don't know. Cowboys could trade up to 3 with trade up to 3 and try to get Zach Wilson. I mean, the Dak Prescott questions are out there too. So we really don't know. Later. I mean, and that's a real thing. That's just not me just making stuff up just because I know you're a Cowboys fan. I mean, Cowboys have been talked about trying to get a quarterback. So what I'll say is, I mean, Matt Ryan may actually be back next year, and they may not have a quarterback. What I think is going to happen is, first thing, they're going to find the GM, and we'll get to that GM thing in a moment. After they find the GM is going to have to decide, regardless of who they want to draft this year's draft, do they want to keep Matt Ryan or not? Also, I don't think they can trade both Matt Ryan and Julio. Not because of there not being a market for them, more of because the way the salary's been structured. If you trade Matt Ryan, that's $50 million against your cap for next year, with a cap already going down. If you trade Julio Jones, that's $40 million against your cap for next year, with a cap that's going down, with the way the signing bonus are set up. So it's going to be, it's not going to be just like, a one season turnover of Matt Ryan and Julio. It could be an extended thing. I wouldn't even be surprised if a big name on the Falcons gets cut. Big name being Matt, Julio, Jake Matthews, Grady Jarrett. One of these guys may get cut, and you'll be like, "Whoa, I didn't see that coming." But you're also going to see a
Potentially
lot of
Hayden
players
Hurst.
throughout the NFL getting cut. So big names will be cut this year.
And
That's
and
definitely an
to-
interesting. Good.
Oh, I was just gonna say those would be June 1st cuts, right?
Depending on what they want to do. I mean, each team
Got
can
it.
have 2 June 1st cuts, which will allow the team, like, let's say they have $10 million towards the 2021 salary cap. If you do it June 1st, it can be designated 5 million this year, 5 million next year. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but that's like the simplest way to explain it.
Got it. Okay, and Nabil H was saved. Did you have something?
Yeah.
to say?
So if you look at Atlanta's cap hit, I actually have never thought about them cutting Matt Ryan or Julio. If they do that, it's a cap figure of $31 and $35 million if they do that. So technically, they do end up saving money. 31 for Matt, 35 for Julio. They do actually end up saving money by doing this in the long run. Obviously, not in the 2021 cap year.
Can I jump in here and point out, if Matt, again, I like Matt. I think he's still the quarterback of the Falcons. If they cut him, I think generally Falcons fans, there will be some that are upset. There was some that are okay with that, but generally it's something the Falcons, I think, can move on from. If they cut Julio Jones, there will be literal riots in the streets, which I will be a part of. He is a goddamn legend. Yeah, he did not really have the best season. He was hurt a lot of the season, and he has been for a few years now, right? But he is so beloved by Atlanta as a sports town, as a culture, as a city, that it would be really hard to convince anybody that is a good move to do. Trading him might be different if you trade him and say, hey, we just want to trade him to a contender because we're rebuilding and we feel like we're doing the right thing for him. That's maybe something that Falcons fans can get behind. But to cut him, I think, is a horrible move that I don't think many people will get behind.
So just to play the other side, and you're speaking as a fan, which I understand, but what I'll say is Julio is a 32-year-old wide receiver coming off a season where he played, 9 games? And he was injured. And the 9 games he played, he probably didn't even play full games throughout that. Like, he was injured throughout those games as well. There will be a market for him. And, Bleacher Report threw out some trades where Falcons are going to get first-round picks for him, whatever. I just personally don't see that. I don't know why anyone would trade a first-round pick for Julio Jones when he's not healthy, about to be 33. When you could just go draft a wide receiver like Justin Jefferson was drafted this year, and he was drafted 27th. It's not like he was drafted, top 5, top 10. He was drafted 27th, and it was an instant impact. Wide receivers are easier to find in the draft. Chris Godwin, 2nd-round pick. Michael Thomas, 2nd-round pick. So why would anyone trade huge amount of value and then take on a huge contract?
Sure.
The only thing I'll say, hey, you're designated 2 post-June cuts. If the Falcons were to do that with both Matt Ryan and Julio, and that's literally hitting the reset button, and I 100% doubt it'll happen, but this is like going completely, other side, 100% rebuild. If they were to cut both of them, you'd be able to save $30 million this year and $30 million next year. It'll be the half the hit each year's. And that could actually kickstart the Falcons rebuild for 2 years from now. Because if you hang on to Julio and Matt Ryan for 1 more year, and let's say y'all don't make it to the playoffs, what was the point?
Sure. Asif, I'm going to let you take over because I know we got to keep moving. We have a lot of football to do, but just one last point before we go forward.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. And I like to point out that it is easier to do that for a general manager who didn't just get hired. You have to create some goodwill. Look, every general manager has to answer to really 2 things, right? The owner that pays him and the fans that will keep him a job at some point, right? If the fans demanded enough, anybody's gone. And that's proven time and time again throughout the NFL, right? If, in this case, Arthur Blank wanted to move on from the Matt Ryan and Julio Jones era, he should have had Thomas Dimitroff do it, throw him a little extra bonus if he needs to get it done, and then get Dimitroff out of here. To do that with a brand new GM is very difficult because I don't think fans will get behind that GM. It will take a lot of goodwill, a lot of good moves that may take 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road to actually pan out for Falcons fans to turn around and say, oh, this GM actually did the right thing. The unfortunate thing is GM should be able, I agree with you, make moves based on football sense, on financial football sense, on on-field success sense. However, they have to actually keep in mind what fans want or what fans will respond positively and negatively to. That's why I said, I could see Matt Ryan happening. It's a possibility. I don't think I agree with you. I don't think it'll happen. And I don't necessarily think it should happen, but it could. I could see that. Julio, I just can't see happening regardless of what logical argument is thrown out there, because again, it's a brand new GM. It's a brand new coach. It's going to look bad letting go a cultural icon like Julio Jones. Fans want to build a statue outside the literal dome for him, let alone cut him. I think it's a very poor move by a brand new system in Atlanta.
I see a higher chance of Matt Ryan being back next year than Julio being back next year.
And that's completely fair. I guess we'll have to find out soon, right?
Yeah. Well, and to cap that off, I would essentially say, regardless if one or both come back or neither comes back, which is improbable, it will still be a new era of Atlanta Falcons football. It'll be something completely different than nobody in this town has seen in the last 10 plus years. So, I mean, it's a good time. Again, you have the top 4 pick. There are a handful of NFL openings. Today is Black Monday in the NFL. Although with the way that this season kind of happened, Black Monday has gone on all season. There's only like one head coaching change this morning versus like 4 throughout the year.
Yeah, I mean, no, there was a few. I mean, Anthony Lynn got fired from Chargers.
The Chargers.
Gase got fired today officially.
So 2.
Doug Marrone got fired.
Doug Marrone's gone.
Doug Marrone. There's at least 3. I think there might be one more.
I'm looking at it right now.
We've got what, 6 head coaching openings right now in the NFL.
Yeah, so I guess that's it. Yeah.
And I would personally argue, and I know we're not going there today, but I'm interested. I think probably the best chance to compete tomorrow is still the Falcons' job, the way the team stands. Because I think that if you fix a couple of things on the defense, and obviously easier said than done, because I know, Nabil, you're going to say that, so I'm ready for it this time. Easier said than done, yes. But if you fix the defense, the offense is not that far away from being better, from being legitimately good. I still believe there's an outworking of a decent to good offense still there. And so I still think the Falcons' job is the best one if you want to compete tomorrow. However,
I think
the best job as a whole is probably like LA Chargers or something.
LA
like
Chargers
Jacksonville.
Is the best job.
I think it's Jacksonville.
I thought it was Jacksonville until Shahid Khan came out today and said, I was in charge of the roster last year. I'm going to be in charge of the roster next year. The only difference between me and Shahid Khan is the fact that he's a billionaire. I mean, outside of that, we're both Pakistani. We're both in Chicago. There's no difference between me and Shahid Khan.
Yeah,
he's
so you got to love brown parenting. It's like, you know what? I'm in charge and I'm always in charge. I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, he can't mess up the first pick. He's going to take Trevor Lawrence. But outside of that, I don't know what he knows about football. He knows the same as I do. So you can have a podcast with me. It'd be great. It'd be Nabil and Shahid. We'll talk about Bollywood movies and football, but it won't work out.
Bollywood, Brews, right?
There we go. But Justin Herbert on the Chargers with a great defense with Joey Bosa, that is probably the number 1 job right now. It would be Houston if they had draft picks, but they have no draft picks.
They have no draft picks, which is why we can't even talk about Houston.
Honestly, that changes everything, and it makes them one of the worst spots to land in this offseason, hands down.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much that needs to be happening. It's just day one. Somebody who didn't lose a job or hasn't been punished for the way that he does his job, at least as of now, is Doug Peterson. Did you guys watch the Sunday Night Football game yesterday?
Yeah.
Yep. I thought that's the way the NFC East should have been decided, but I have no problem with what he did. I mean, why not?
I
right?
thought
you have no problem with what he did. That's crazy.
No.
I thought the NFC East should be decided by getting, let's all 5 offensive linemen from all 4 teams at a Buffalo Wild Wings blazing contest. Let's go. Winner goes to the playoffs. Because for football's sake, all those teams are atrocious.
So
I would pay full pay-per-view price to do that.
So
I will. Go ahead, Nabil.
No, please.
I think, being a Cowboys fan and having the season that we've had this year, I enjoyed nothing more than watching the Eagles not only implode on national television, but the amount of heat and shit that they got for it afterwards. With that being said, I did have a problem with them benching Jalen Hurts, but let's not act like they're the first team that's done that. We had a game earlier in the day where a quarterback did not start because their playoff position was locked, and that's the Pittsburgh Steelers.
and Kansas
They
City.
lost the game against the Cleveland Browns. I don't understand
Is that arguably different though, because you're trying to rest 4 weeks ahead, whereas Jalen Hurts is not playing next week. So what does it matter? I mean, of course, you don't want him to get hurt. You don't want anybody to get hurt. But you can't say you're resting Jalen Hurts for next week when he clearly does not have a game next week. Whereas Ben Roethlisberger, hey, man, LeBron James, you want to sit out games 81 and 82? Go for it, my friend. We need you to make another playoff run.
All I'm going to say is we called the Jets the dumbest team in football for winning a football game.
Let's be honest.
Did we not? Did we all collectively not call the Jets the dumbest team in football for winning a football game?
Sure.
And how is that any different from what the Eagles did? I mean, they wanted to secure the number 6 spot in the draft. They're going to have to find a way to get rid of Carson Wentz. The last thing they really care about is winning a football game that they're already eliminated from the playoffs from. They don't give a crap about the Giants.
By the way, I would like to add, if you watch the first half of that first half of the game was actually very competitive. The Eagles were really trying.
It was a 3-point game when Jalen Hurts got benched.
Can we not forget that at that point, right before Jalen Hurts actually gets benched, it's 4th and I believe goal from the 2 or 3 yard line. They could have kicked a field goal to tie the game. They went for it on purpose. They have every intention of losing that game. They go, look, if we get it, dope. If we don't, fuck it. We're not winning this game. We have no interest in winning this football game. We know, look, the one thing that the Philadelphia Eagles do know is that Jalen Hurts will be their quarterback next year, barring some, absurd circumstance. Now, you brought up a good point with Carson Wentz. I think it's actually going to be extremely easy to trade Carson Wentz. And here's why. I'll tell you, right? I've read a lot of football books from a lot of football dudes that sound super generic. I know. I just don't want to get into details. But the point I'm trying to make is football guys, head coaches, GMs, they have one thing in common for the most part. They got an ego up to 15. And so every single guy wants to be the guy that fixes Carson Wentz, because we do remember Carson Wentz was a good football player not that long ago. And
before he tore his ACL.
Quite literally. And I mean, look, even after, he looked decent. He has not looked horrifically bad. So he can, every coach, every GM wants to be the guy that fixed Carson Wentz. And I think it's very possible that he gets traded rather easily very soon.
Oh, I think he's going to the Colts. I think he's 100% going to the Colts. That's the one that makes the most sense to me.
Yeah, Frank Reich's already there. Him and Frank Reich are like good friends.
It could absolutely happen. Philip Rivers on a 2-year deal. I mean, it's pretty.
Philip Rivers might retire after he gets
this year.
Destroyed this weekend.
I'm pretty sure he said that he will. Well, he said that they would if they didn't make a playoff run. So you got to think that, okay, after the playoff run, he's not going to come back.
There's an easy
He was
thing.
already committed to not coming back if he didn't have extra games to play. So, like you said, Wentz to Indy seems like it makes a lot of sense.
Look, it's an easy fix. Just get your boy Tony Romo to call up Philip Rivers and tell him how amazing that cushy job commentating on football games is. We need better Monday Night Football commentators. They're atrocious. Put Philip Rivers in the booth Monday night.
I do not want to see little kids running around the broadcast as I'm watching a game, bro. I'm good. You've got like 15 of them.
We're going to see that this weekend on Nickelodeon when the Bears are playing anyway, so what does it matter?
Look, Philip Rivers got to feed them kids, so that we know he's going to keep working for as long as he can. Get him in the booth. It's good money. And let's get him commentating on Sunday night or Monday Night Football. I would love that. I think we all would.
Philip Rivers is a football guy. He's going to go to some like class 3A college and be the head commentator over there. He's not going to be on ESPN. He says dadgummit too much. So
yeah, no, he's going to start teaching a master class on how to play quarterback. You know?
I heard a joke the other day. Master class is the only fans for people with like legit skill, and I was like, that's funny. That's funny.
You know what? Philip Rivers is going to teach sex ed.
Oh, that's a good one.
I would really rather not.
I mean, he'll teach you how to do it. Never mind.
I think, down, set.
Damn it, Nabil, you're not even drinking.
Yeah. Speaking of, okay, so in summary, I think the Eagles should at least be somewhat reprimanded, but it's up for debate.
I mean,
6 and 9. If you want a receiver, Nabil, like you said, there's 3 top 15 receivers in this year's draft. That's what they're going for.
The Eagles just secured Devontae Smith, and we saw what he did this weekend. I mean, they just secured the best wide receiver in the draft. What was I going to say? Oh, going back to the GM note real quick, just popped right back in my head. Speaking of Falcons quarterbacks, first of all, shout out to Matt Schaub, who did retire today. I'm pretty sure he's going to go to San Fran and be an assistant for Shanny over there. Just makes too much logical sense.
It's pretty cool.
Outside of that, Rick Smith was the Falcons' favorite for the GM. I think he interviewed already, but that was like the consensus favorite for a little bit. He may be going to Denver. He has ties to Denver, and Denver just moved John Elway up to president. So keep
They
an eye
can't
out for
even
that.
properly fire him. They're like, we're going to give him another job, but we're not going to let you leave.
Well, they're
Hey.
like, oh, people still love him, but he's really bad at his job. So let's
Yeah.
not, destroy that goodwill, but we can't have him doing this job anymore. Please.
Hey, the
for God's
Bears
sake,
may do
don't
the
do
same thing with Ryan Pace, where we may be kicking Ryan Pace up to president and then hiring a GM who actually has authority over the president. So I don't know.
Nice.
And
think
it's
the
Mike
whole-
Borgonzi. Mike
Yes.
Borgonzi, that is the guy. So perfect timing, because I think this is so the Bears do have a game this weekend. The Bears are
Yes.
in the playoffs. Congratulations.
We are.
Playoff for Bayern. No, that's great. Congratulations, my friend.
Playoff
You made it. You stumbled into the playoffs. How do you feel?
Okay, we're in the playoffs. That's about it. I mean, like if the game was Saturday, I would have felt a lot better because Kamara probably couldn't play, but it's on Sunday. Thanks a lot, NFL scheduler makers.
You don't think they did it on
yeah.
purpose? I think that was with intention.
It probably was because they don't want the Bears to make it to the second round. I don't think anyone wants the Bears to make it to the second round except for Bears fans.
Or Saints fans. They can't screw Saints fans again 3 years in a row, right? They got to give them a chance this time.
I think
Listen, it's not. Go ahead.
I think everyone here will agree with me when I say we are all Bears fans this Saturday. I do not want the Saints to advance. I think they're highly overrated. I don't think they're that good of a football team. So it'll be interesting to watch them. I actually do think the Bears can beat them. I'm definitely in the minority when I say that. So we'll see what happens. But
For
Alvin
what it's
Kamara,
worth,
all
no.
minorities.
Well, for what
Technically,
it's
we're all
worth-
minorities, but
well, that's true.
Also
we'll see. I
fact.
think the Bears can win too.
For what it's worth, I also agree. I think the Bears can win. I'm not saying I would pick them, but Nabil, I got to ask you a question. You're a Bears fan.
Yeah.
Are you sure you want the Bears to win? Because doesn't that just mean Mitch is definitely the quarterback next year again?
Bro, like at this point, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I really don't know. I mean, if the Bears lose, the Mitch still may be back. I mean, I think
Could you in any way see? Okay, look, I know we're not going to go here, but I have to. It seems like Matt Stafford is out in Detroit.
I would love Matt Stafford.
Right? Could you not just trade like a 3rd round pick and get Matt Stafford? How much?
Dude,
Look,
I would
Matt
love
Stafford
to get
could,
Matt Stafford.
Matt Stafford could throw the ball with his feet and it would still go further than what Trubisky does game in and game out.
You're
mean,
absolutely correct.
So then I go back to my original question. Are you sure you want the Bears to win this weekend?
I mean, listen, I'll tell you this. If the Bears win or the Bears lose, that I put the odds exactly the same as us getting Matt Stafford.
I agree. I don't
Because-
think go ahead.
Because I just don't. I'm pretty sure the Bears are just going to be like, hey, guys, we made it to the playoffs. Let's bring the whole group back together one more time and let's see if it can work. When obviously it's not going to work.
Safe, you have to
Yeah.
think, not every team runs as the Dallas Cowboys. Just because we made it to the playoffs or won a playoff game, they're going to be like, let's bring the whole band back together. We're going to run it back because we've been doing that for 25 years and shit hasn't happened.
Yeah, I like that we're referring to the Cowboys and Bears as the models of success in my lifetime.
Well, the Bears have made it to the Super Bowl well before the Cowboys have, so I will give them that credit.
The Bears deserve no credit for anything. I mean, the only thing the Bears deserve credit for is the Kansas City Super Bowl. The Bears deserve credit for the Kansas City Super Bowl. That's
The Bears, I think the Bears deserve credit for putting together a fantastic defense that is being wasted by their offensive liability of a quarterback.
Exactly.
So
I thought you were going to say offense, and I was like, just Mitch.
No,
I don't think Mitch is stock.
It's fucking terrible.
Whatever Mitch does in this game, it does not affect anything. I think the Bears are going to move on from Mitch regardless. I can't see anything that would change with Mitch.
I'm not going to lie. I think it's a coin toss because there's actual, like, when Adam Schefter says there's conversations about the Bears bringing back Mitch Trubisky, that's like, oh, this is Shefty. This isn't one of us throwing this out there. It's Shefty. Like, he heard it from someone that actually matters.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I mean, at this point, I don't know. So the way I see it is, why not just enjoy a Bears game if I can? Because I get an extra Bears game this year. Y'all don't.
Is Trubisky out of a contract after this year?
Yep.
So they'd have to franchise tag him to bring him back?
We will not franchise tag him. We were going to give him maybe a one. And this is the other thing. I mean, it'll be like a 1 year 15 million, maybe 2-year 30 million, which is still too much. You know,
I think the biggest fear that the Bears front office has is, hey, cool, we'll move on from Mitch Trubisky, and then he goes to like New England and becomes the next Tom fucking Brady, and then they're gonna sit there and go, well, fuck, we're all out of a job now because the owner thinks that this guy is good. That's probably why they want to keep him around, because they can't let him walk and be better somewhere else.
Let him. I mean, at this point, you did not like. It's like you get a puppy, and a puppy keeps shitting on your carpet. And if you give it to someone else and they're able to make the puppy stop shitting on their carpet, they deserve to have the puppy. You obviously do not know how to house train a puppy. So you need to go buy a grown dog or it's already housebroken, like a Matt Stafford.
I'm not joking.
I thought he was going to kill the dog this whole time. I was like, oh no, he's going to shoot the puppy.
I would not shoot a puppy. What is wrong?
No, we love puppies on this show, actually.
What podcast do you think we're on, Nabil? We don't even shoot puppies on our podcast.
We were talking about cutting Mitch Trubisky, which is almost ending his career. So when we made the puppy analogy, I didn't know where this was going.
Yeah, not there. Mitch will be in the NFL for the next 10 to 15 years.
He'll get a job.
But as a backup, he's going to be on the Saints this time next year. I promise you. He'll be on the Saints.
That's probably
well, no,
they already have their guy who can run around a lot in Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill.
Yeah. And when Taysom Hill gets hurt, you need a guy who can play exactly the same way Taysom Hill plays.
How dare you? Taysom Hill is the greatest
quarterback
of all time, damn it. He'll never get hurt. I hate everything about Taysom Hill. And it's not Taysom Hill's fault. It's how everybody else talks about Taysom Hill.
No, Saints fans talk about
getting
Taysom
screwed
Hill.
by the myth of Taysom Hill. It's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, well, you probably are going to see him in the game next Sunday, right, against the Bears.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll bring him out for a couple plays.
But you know who you're not going to see, most likely? You're not going to see Roquan Smith, because most likely he's going to be out with a dislocated elbow. And if Jalen Johnson and Buster Screen are both out as well, good luck to the Bears. Like Drew Brees isn't the same Drew Brees as he used to be, but he can still tear you apart if you don't sack him or break a rib.
The brain is still there.
He'll easily dink and dunk to 350 yards if he can.
Yeah,
if the Bears give him a chance to, it's no problem whatsoever. So yeah, with Slant Boy.
Especially with Slant Boy.
Yeah. So I mean, do you have any do you have any other thoughts on Sunday's game as far as the game itself? How can the Bears win? You got to get after the quarterback, keep everything in front of you, and then hope that you can keep that 17 to 23 point threshold, so Mitch Trubisky at least has an opportunity to help the Bears win the game. Correct?
It has to be the same game plan as you did against the Packers. You have to run the ball with David Montgomery. He's obviously your best offensive player. The defense has to step up. You have to find a way to stop Kamara and stop Michael Thomas, which isn't usually easy. So if you can pull that off, you have a shot.
I think this is going to be a Khalil Mack just going absolutely insane game in order for them to win. I can't see them. That defense, that's going to take a lot.
This is the time of year where you have your guys come through for you, right? This is why you get a Khalil Mack. This is why you are confident with an Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes on your team. So you can say, or Josh Allen even, where you can say, hey, we have that guy that you don't have, and he is a difference maker, and watch him go to work. And, of course, the team has to play better. Stars are going to be made, and guys are going to have to step up. Like, the Bears can't afford to lose Mooney. That catch that he made in that game on Sunday was incredible in the I just got to put that out there.
Yeah.
He
Mooney looks like he's going to be good.
Right. He looks like he has good chemistry with a quarterback. That's what you need as a team right now to be gelling together, you know? By the way, if you got puppy pictures, tag them, tag us, at Bears, Birds, and Brews.
Don't tag that in the bill.
Pod.
Do not tag that in the bill.
We all love dogs.
I don't know.
Tag us in your puppy photos, please.
So I think that it's really easy to say that we think the Bears will win or that the Saints are probably going to win. But something we do on our podcast, I wanted to bring over here really quickly. You guys are familiar with spreads, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the spread is New Orleans -10. Now pick the game. Do you think the Bears keep it within 10, or do you think New Orleans is covering the spread, Bill?
I think Bears cover.
You think the Bears will keep it within 10?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Other Nabil? My
Bears,
Nabil?
Bears keep it within 10. Yeah.
I think the Saints will cover this one. I think they'll cover it. They'll win by more than 10. because if you're asking me to bet on Mitch Trubisky or against Mitch Trubisky, I think I'm pretty clear on which side of that fence I'm on. I'm not shooting the puppy, but the puppy isn't good enough to be.
I love dogs, man.
Yeah,
I didn't
but
know
you
where it
will
was
tag
going.
us in those photos at Bears, Birds, and Brews and at WBEM Pod. All your puppy photos, all your beer photos, all your NFL playoff photos. So let's do a rundown of this weekend's games real fast. It's wildcard weekend. We got 3 games Saturday, 3 games Sunday, thanks to the playoff format change. As the bill of the show like to say, more football, more better. Isn't that right, Nabil?
More football, more better.
There you go.
Don't get behind that.
So, okay, there are 2 division matchups in this week's playoff games, Rams versus Seahawks, and then Steelers versus Browns. You don't really see, I mean, I guess it happens fairly often, but rubber match, 2, best of 3 is literally in this case, even if one team won the other 2 games, you win this game against your division opponent. This is the game that you want to win. So I'll just break these down real fast. Rams versus Seahawks, who y'all got and why?
Who's the quarterback? Who's the quarterback?
It's going to be the LinkedIn man himself, John Wolford.
Yep.
Man with the LinkedIn page.
Then it's the Seahawks. And by the way, Jared Goff had a messed up thumb, and it probably still is the Seahawks.
Yeah.
I like the Rams.
Seahawks, yeah. Simple.
I'll say Seahawks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, and now we got Steelers.
Asif, you gotta make your pick, my guy. I want to know. Are you picking
Rams?
Rams?
I mean, I will be neutral today because as we know, my picks are not always the most accurate. I still think the Falcons are going to somehow beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl this year. I'm holding out, So
this guy.
But we do have Browns and Steelers as the other division game. It's the last playoff game of the weekend. 8:15 Sunday Night Football. Steeler Nation. Is Baker Mayfield going to get it done? He's in the contract year, more or less. Playoff. Browns' first playoff appearance in 2002. That's like almost 2 decades ago. What's going to happen in this game? Is this going to be one and done for Cleveland?
I've got the Browns.
So, you got the Browns? Oh, nice. Safe?
Did you see how they celebrated, the Browns did, making the playoffs? They've already busted their load. The Steelers will beat the shit out of them. Look, Kobe, I'm a big Kobe guy. For those of you that don't listen to our podcast, now you know I'm a huge Kobe fan. I grew up that guy. Kobe always talked about you don't celebrate regular season shit, no matter how awesome it is, right? Cool, you made the playoffs after 20 years or 18 years. Congrats. You already busted your load. You're just happy to be here. If you're happy to be here, you'll be happy to go home too.
You didn't hear everything afterwards. Sure, they celebrated it, but then Baker also came on that press conference and said, yeah, we won this game. The city can celebrate tonight, but we're back to work tomorrow. I have full confidence.
What's the Browns' strength?
I'm gonna paint a picture for you guys. Running the ball. I'm gonna paint a picture for you guys. So it's gonna be 17-20. Browns have the ball with 2 minutes to go. Baker and Browns are down. I'm sorry, 17-20. Browns are down. Baker is going to drive them down to the 20-yard line. 5 seconds to go. Cody Parkey, the Browns kicker, comes out.
Double
doinks it.
I knew he was going to say it. I knew where this one was going.
That's how the game ends. ends.
Cody Parkey kills the puppy. That's what we're talking about. It's literally the dog pound. Literally the dog pound.
Cody Parkey kills a dog pound. There we go.
Wow.
Comes full circle.
And you can print that, NFL. Cody Parkey kills the dog pound. How do you think Odell feels about all this? Does Odell I love Odell.
Pretty shitty, probably.
I kind of feel bad for Odell right now. You know what I'm saying? I kind of
Y'all think he cares? I've heard this a lot, and I've always thought this. Y'all think he actually cares?
I think he does, but I don't think he's going to be on the Browns next year. I think he already knows he's not going to be on the Browns next year.
He was on the boat before a playoff game like 6 years ago. I don't think he cares.
I love Odell. Odell is like that crazy ex that I just can't leave. I love that man so much for no reason.
I do too.
He's never been good
I don't think
to me.
he cares.
He's never been good to me.
I had this theory: you don't build a team around wide receivers, and that's what the Browns did. But once Odell Beckham was gone, then you built a team around an offensive line and a running game, and they're playing a lot better. So
I just think the Steelers' strength is stopping the run, and so they're gonna do that on Sunday.
Yeah,
they're gonna make it really hard for those amazing running backs to do what they do.
Yeah,
it's a different
do a
game,
good job in week 17, but this is the playoffs, so we'll see what happens.
Right,
exactly.
He didn't do it both times.
I'm just hoping all helmets stay on this week. That's all.
Facts.
Look,
Yes.
Steelers were smart. They put Mason Rudolph out this week, so Myles Garrett gets all of his load out, and now he'll be tired. It's dumb. It's genius.
They did bust early. I was right.
There you go, man.
Oh,
You're
man.
not wrong.
In a different way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Hey, you don't know. You weren't in the huddle.
Okay, so actually from one injured wide receiver to another, and this is a genuine question because I just remembered as we were talking about it. Do we have a status update on Mike Evans, Tampa Bay receiver Mike Evans, who looked like he had a pretty day-to-day?
He's day-to-day.
So
Day-to-day.
may or may not play
I don't think he's
Sunday
going to play.
Or
Yeah,
Saturday.
it seems like he's going to be out.
Do they need him?
I don't think they do. You're playing the Washington football team.
Yeah, and he's been gone this whole season. So
yeah, have him hang out, kick it, ice the knee, and be ready for the next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look, if you lose to Washington football team, it wasn't because you didn't have Mike Evans out there. Can we be honest here? It's not for this one player not being out there.
That's
and the receiving core should be good enough to beat Washington. Washington's front line is going to be the storyline of that game. Washington's defensive line has been one of the best in the NFL this whole season. That's going to be the storyline of this game, is seeing how easily they can get to Tom Brady.
Yeah. Chase Young is a beast. Montez Sweat's a beast. I will say that if the Buccaneers don't win the Super Bowl, Bruce Arians will get fired.
Yeah, I think it's Super Bowl bust as well. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that would shock me, but I think that the biggest thing for me has always been, if we're gonna fire a dude on an established team that has Super Bowl aspirations, we better have another guy lined up that's gonna be actually good for the job.
I mean, I just had this idea about this guy up in New England who thought he was getting a job, but he's not getting a job for a while now, Josh something. So I'm just saying, Josh McDaniels may want to come to Tampa if they don't win the Super Bowl.
That would be like Merry Christmas to Tom Brady all over again.
Yeah.
This is why I don't make predictions on the show, because Arnaville makes such great predictions. Swami, he's like Chris Berman, the Brown Chris Berman over here.
Like throw shit against the wall and hopefully it sticks.
I do want to point out, though, just if you're superstitious at all, Bucs fan, Brady fan, Washington football team fan, the Super Bowl is in Tampa this year. As we know, no team has ever made it to the Super Bowl that's hosting the Super Bowl. Could the great Tom Brady do this as well as everything else that he's already done in NFL lore? I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things where it's like a freak accident, or just the craziest thing could happen where Tampa doesn't get to play the Super Bowl in its own stadium.
I need Tampa to win because I need someone to knock out the Packers. So
it could definitely happen. Tampa could definitely not make the Super Bowl. That just won't happen this week against the Washington football team.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it's 2 more games, but we got 3 to talk about. So we go Ravens, Titans, Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson. This could be a really good game. I'm kind of surprised it's Sunday at 1:00, but this might be the game of the weekend, potentially.
I think this is the closest matchup between the 6 that we will talk about today. These two teams are as close to evenly matched up as they can, but the Titans defense is very fraudulent, and I think the Ravens can catch them sleeping on just that alone. Derrick Henry's going to have to control the pace of the game. Otherwise, the Ravens are the better football team as a whole, I think.
Titans defense is one of the worst defenses in the NFL against tight ends. Mark Andrews is the tight end for the Baltimore Ravens, and Lamar Jackson loves him a lot. So I agree with Tape 100%. I think that defense isn't as good as everyone thinks it is, but the Ravens defense also isn't as good as everyone thinks it is as well. Derrick Henry has run up a storm on that defense in the past, and it could happen again. So it should be a very, very close game, a very good game.
Play the trend. Lamar Jackson has not played well in the playoffs the 2 times he's been in there. And Derrick Henry is literally running over everything in sight. I'll take the Titans. I don't think they're going to be able to stop A.J. Brown. Tannehill is the better passer, not the better quarterback, but the better passer. Lamar Jackson does not play well in playoffs. I'll take the Titans.
I think you're going to see a legend being made this weekend. Lamar Jackson's going to get that puppy off his back. Let's remember, it's only his 3rd year in the NFL.
Can we stop?
That's also
puppy?
Very true.
Let's give them. We're super. Episode. Yeah, I mean, look, we get super excited about these young guys being really good in year 1, 2. We forget about the guys who are really exciting and then kind of fell off. Lamar's about to do some Lamar shit. And again, if they love to run the ball just very differently than the way the Titans like to run the ball. If whoever controls the pace of this game is going to win the game, in my opinion. And I don't think that's an absurd claim to make.
So you have the Ravens safe?
Yeah, I'm taking the Ravens. Absolutely.
Okay, and then I just want to point out that I believe the winner of this game gets to play the Kansas City Chiefs in the next round, in which case it would be a revenge playoff game for either team.
So
you know.
just the way that the new playoff format works, after the first round of playoffs, the lowest seed plays the next team. So the winner would not play the Chiefs. The loser may. I mean, well, it depends who wins. So what's the matchup on that?
That's 4 and 5.
5 versus 4. Baltimore 5 versus 4. And yeah.
So it just depends. If we have any upsets, that'll go because it reseeds. So
Yeah,
right, because the
next
Colts
round
or
will
the
reseed.
Browns.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the Colts
if
or
the
the Browns
Browns
win,
yeah, because
then they
if
play
the
the
Bears
Chiefs.
somehow win, they play the Packers.
Yeah, this bracket is less of a bracket. It's very fluid this year.
Yeah,
it's kind of like
I kind of like it. I'm not gonna
right?
lie to you.
I do as well. Yeah, more football, more better.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like NHL. NAB saves hockey. NAB saves NFL football in COVID 2021. All right, last game. I'm really kind of upset about this game because I thought either one of these teams is a team that nobody wants to play, at least in the playoffs at all. And it's it's Buffalo versus Indy. And these are the teams that, like, I do not want on my schedule. And the fact that they have to play each other in the first round, I think is a shame because I think either of these teams could really pull an upset somewhere. Unfortunately, if Indy does it, they're going to have to do it twice because their first round matchup is against the number 2 seed in Buffalo, who just scored, 54 points on the top 10 scoring defense or the number 1 scoring defense in the NFL for the tune-up game.
They only played their
Indy
starters the
versus
first half.
Buffalo.
They only played their starters
Right.
the first half, and they still put up 56 in the game.
Yeah, Indy versus Buffalo, first game of the playoff wildcard schedule this weekend, Saturday at 1 o'clock. Nabil L, what's happening, bro? What we got?
Bills Mafia. They're gonna destroy.
This episode is a Bills Mafia right here. We got Nabil L, Nabil H. What's happening, Nabil H? What's going on?
I have to agree with him. I think the Bills are going to roll. They're just going to continue going. I think they're the best team in the AFC this year, if we're being honest, but we're going to get into that later.
These teams you probably do not want to see at any point in the playoffs if you can avoid it. So
not at all.
For better, Phillip Rivers, sorry. But safe, you might get him in Monday Night Football booth like after one game, my friend.
I'm excited to have Phillip Rivers Monday night. But dude, this is a damn shame. Like you said, both these teams have upset potential. And I'm going to pick the Bills. But the only thing I want to put out there is every single year, there is a football team that has that nobody believes in us mentality. It's like, hey, nobody believes in us. Nobody's picking us. Vegas ain't picking us. The fans ain't picking us. Phillip Rivers has been that his whole damn career, basically. If they upset, would it really be that shocking? Genuine.
Yes.
I think the Bills are the better team. But the nobody believes in us mentality, Phillip Rivers is the living proof of that many, many, many times.
And he has done nothing with it. So I'm still going to choose the Bills.
I mean,
all I'm saying is the nobody believes in us comes to life when the guys on the podcast don't believe in them. You see where I'm going with this?
Listen,
I'm not picking him, but that's the point. None of us are picking him.
Yeah. And in terms of nobody believes, that's the Bears this year, man. No one thought we'd make it to the playoffs. At least Indy was a playoff team.
Hey, George Kittle thought you guys were going to make the playoffs. He tried to help.
Hey, he did. George Kittle saved the Bears.
Not to burst your bubble in the bill, but it does look like I'm looking at these 12 teams in the playoffs. It looks like the Bears are the only team that lost their Week 17 matchup going into the playoffs.
Listen, you got to get the bad games out early. I just
want to make sure that rule still applies even in 2021.
Hey, Steelers lost. What are you talking about, Asif? Steelers lost yesterday.
Hey, but they're not tanking for the draft. They're just resting for the playoffs.
Yo, you're just giving out invalid information. You're just giving out fraudulent information.
No.
Damn it, Asif, come on.
Well, all right.
I mean, I have to fact check your facts that you're going to give me?
No, because we got more to talk about. We got the grand finale to discuss, which is maybe the most exciting game that we're going to talk about on the show today. And I know, Safe, it's the one that you are the most excited about. You got Alabama, Roll Tide versus the Ohio State University College Football Playoff National Championship, January 11th in Miami, 2021, that is. You saw the Chiefs win last year in Miami. Who wins this year in Miami? Who's got it?
Can I roll back time and can we actually debate about something that's not necessarily this game, but the college football playoff?
Sure.
So that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. Okay. We knew, Vegas knew, you, me, the four of us in this podcast, everybody knew Notre Dame did not belong at number 4. However, there was not necessarily, I mean, look, they were 20-point underdogs playing against the number 1 team in the country. They did not belong in that
ridiculous.
game. Vegas was well aware of this. 20 points is an absurd number. But we also understand that the difference between 1, 2, and 3 and everybody else was legit. It was a legit difference. And there was no really good argument.
Sorry, I just want to cut you off. It's actually 1, 2, 3, and 11 if you ask Dabo Sweeney. Okay, it's 1, 2, 3, and 11.
Very true.
Sorry,
Dabo,
continue.
I just want to know what beer Dabo is drinking.
He's not. He's smoking, bro. He's not drinking. He's gone to smoking.
Well,
bro.
we're on the Bears, Birds, and Brews podcast, so I'm going to keep it the Brews, my guy.
I was going to say, it's not this juice equals juice because this stuff is phenomenal and it's got me feeling good. I don't think Dabo feels good right now.
But but I'm very curious, right? So where are you going with this?
Okay. So here's
1,
the thing.
2, and 3, and then there's 4. Okay.
And then there's a big drop off from 4 or from the end of 3 onward, right? And one thing that at least I've heard, and I think everybody's discussed time and time again, was just a couple years ago, the whole UCF should have been in the playoff. They should have gotten a chance. They never got a chance 2 years in a row. Now, I'm not here to put any light to that argument. However, with COVID, with the lack of fans coming into the building, right? And I say that to say Alabama, Notre Dame had 18,000 fans in attendance. Ohio State, Clemson had 3,000 fans in attendance. So very low attendance numbers. The argument has always been they chose Notre Dame because they belong there, but really the answer is because of, well, money. They're a national brand, right? And so at least they will draw people in the building. They will draw people to watch the game. But Cincinnati got screwed, according to Cincinnati fans, right? They went on an undefeated year. They were 8-0 until they lost to Georgia this weekend. And this, I think, with COVID and money not being the hugest factor because they can't fill the stadium, because they can't fill the city, would have been a good year to bring them in, watch them get their ass beat, and then it gives the college football committee a reason to say this is why we don't allow those small-ass schools who play garbage-ass schedules going forward. It would have been a good year to set an example because they don't have that much to lose this year. They wouldn't have to worry about filling a 60, 70, 80,000 person stadium because they're not doing that anyway. They don't have to worry about serving out the bars, the restaurants, and hotels in the cities in which they play the game because they're not doing that anyway. It would have been a great year. Cincinnati UGA had 15,000 fans. So they filled that stadium to the capacity they were allowed to do so, which is about the same capacity as the other 2 stadiums, right? So this would have been a good year to let Cincinnati come in, get absolutely trolled by Roll Tide because we know that would have happened, right? But Notre Dame did the same thing. So we should have served a purpose. Have a purpose for your action. Let Cincinnati and let them get their ass kicked, and then the small schools can shut up and go away for a little bit.
So my only argument to that is the only way NCAA is going to make money this year, since there are very little tickets being sold, is by ratings. So you sell the next year's game based off of this year's ratings because you can't sell it off of next year's ratings. Notre Dame rates higher than Cincinnati will ever will. So that's one reason why Notre Dame. That's one reason why Notre Dame made it. Yeah. The other thing I'm going to say is Florida fucked up. If Florida just didn't throw a shoe, if they just didn't throw a shoe, they would have been number 4 because they kept up with Alabama in the SEC championship game. But they threw a shoe, they lost to LSU, and they didn't make the playoffs.
LSU.
So yeah, in theory, you're right. Yeah, if you want to put Cincinnati in there and let them get destroyed, that's fine. But we've already seen that. We've seen a Washington get destroyed by Bama multiple times. They don't belong. What they should do is they should expand the playoffs, give 1 and 2 a bye, and then let 3, 4, 5, and 6 play it out. And then you're going to see the lower teams play the lower teams, and the best of the lower teams will go from there. Because who wants to see Cincinnati play Alabama?
Well, who wanted to see Notre Dame play them? There were 20-point favorites. We knew that game was over in the first quarter.
Oh, but I'm more willing to watch Notre Dame.
Millions of Notre Dame fans.
Yeah, I'm not even
to watch that game.
I'm not even a Fighting Irish fan. I'd rather watch Notre Dame Bama than watch Cincinnati Bama. I'm sorry.
Be brutally honest with yourself. you would only hate watch that game. You're not watching that game. You're hate watching that game.
I have no reason to hate them. We beat them.
Listen, the ratings don't care why you're watching it. The ratings don't give a crap why you're watching the game. They just want to know you're watching it. They
Sure.
want you to. They want to show you the Patrick Price and the Aaron Rodgers rate on State Farm commercials, and that's why Notre Dame made it.
So I actually think I have two thoughts here. One, I think a 1-2 bye in the college football playoff would actually be great, and it allows you to utilize your 6 marquee bowl games, right? Because the Orange Bowl and the New Year's 6 still get utilized properly, even if not on New Year's Day, but they still get utilized properly. 1 and 2, maybe you don't want to watch. I would have watched Cincinnati versus Alabama. That's I'm weird like that when it comes to college football. I would have also liked to watch Cincinnati versus Notre Dame to play Alabama, because I think, hey, now one of these teams can literally earn the right to get steamrolled by Nick Saban. But at least you're good enough to win the Orange Bowl if you're not good enough to win the Cotton Bowl against Roll Tide. So, and I think that kind of brings together the best of both worlds, right? Also, it's like the 1-2 bye scenario is very interesting, because it's like we all believe Clemson was the number 2 team in the country until Justin Fields broke his rib, yet somehow went superhuman and did what he does, I guess. What he might do for the Jets next year. Who knows?
So, Asif, I will contradict you there. Once Trevor Lawrence went out with COVID, and Notre Dame and Clemson played earlier in the season, and Clemson really struggled. That vaunted defense, that amazing defense this year. When Notre Dame was giving them a hard time is when I started feeling that Clemson, they were fraudulent this year. And they may not have been fraudulent because their offense still looked good in this game against Ohio State, but I had a feeling that team wasn't going to be as good as everyone thinks they were, and it kind of showed against Ohio State.
I mean, in all fairness,
that's fair. That's totally fair.
State, I mean, look, Clemson got dealt kind of a tough hand with Ohio State only playing 6 games this year, right? That kind of matters, right? It matters that one team played 10 or 11 games and has that put on their body versus the other team that played 6 games. And it's unfortunate. It's not Ohio State's fault. It's a COVID year. It's a weird year. But
the Big Ten's fault, actually.
Huh?
It's the Big Ten's fault. They delayed the season.
It's Donald Trump's. It was Donald Trump's blessing that the Big Ten came back.
This is true. He did say this in the first presidential debate. But I know that you were probably going to say something in regards to 6 games for Ohio State, 11 plus games for Clemson. I mean, you're right. Being fresh matters, and it absolutely showed. But now, how does that translate to, hey, we know the college football playoff is flawed. We know that maybe not the best teams get in addition to not enough games are being played. But now, does it feel like you do have the 2 best teams in the country playing for the national championship? I would say, yeah, probably. I don't know who else you would put in this game if not Alabama and Ohio State. I mean, am I wrong?
It's like that meme where you use the wrong formula to get the right answer, and that's what happened.
It's kind of what this beer can looks like, quite
literally.
If you can see all the.
I think any combination of 1, 2, or 3 in the final would have been fine with basically anybody. It's hard to argue on the quality of any of those 3 teams, right? And so I'm not upset by it any means at all. And by the way, I want to understand, or I want to at least explain, the college football system as it stands is flawed, but in all reality, teams 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, none of them were going to be in this final, barring some incredible performance or miracle, which happens from time to time. But as we've learned throughout the years of the college football system in the playoff, it's unlikely the wrong team ends up in the final anyway, right? And so even if we did 6 teams or if we did 8 teams or whatever, it likely would have ended up with some combination of 1, 2, and 3 in the final. At least I believe that to be true. And I would be hard pressed to make an argument for anybody. By the way, I wasn't trying to bring in Cincinnati so they would do something. It was for them to get destroyed too. It was simply to shut up. I just think it would serve a purpose of destroying an entire argument for at least the next 5 years of all these small schools.
But isn't it entertaining when they think they can win? I think it's entertaining. I mean, when UCF had the parade and made the T-shirts, I'm like,
I would have loved.
I would rather buy a UCF T-shirt than a Bama T-shirt, to be honest. So,
well, I would have liked to see UCF play a Georgia or a Bama in those years because Georgia was good in those years, making the playoff. Right? It would have been fun to see UCF play those teams to shut them up for a couple of years. Now UCF from 2016 really thinks they're national champs. Like, come on. Well, it'd be fun to serve a purpose when you get your ass kicked.
Well, there's also the flaw of college football in general because no one schedules UCF now because when you're scheduling a non-conference team, you don't want to schedule the best non-conference team. You just schedule the shitty non-conference team because you want to beat the crap out of them. It's a flawed system altogether.
I think that I personally don't think that the college football committee is going to go out and expand the playoff to 6 or 8 teams, although it could be fun, but I don't think that they will. However, what would be genuinely helpful is if they put out a legitimate guideline saying, hey, these are the rules. If you don't beat 2 top 20 rated teams or top 25 rated teams in a given year, we're not even going to consider you to make the playoff.
Well, strength of schedule
you want the BCS back. So you say you want the BCS back because that's the BCS.
I need some rules here because the argument, look, it's never going to be perfect. We have to understand this. Yeah. It's never going to be the way. There's always going to be at least some form of fan group, right? Whether it be the Floridas or the A&Ms or the Cincinnatis of the world that are upset that they didn't make it. But at least you can go back and say, hey, you didn't do this, this, and this when this, and this would have been really awesome to do.
Well, so Safe, the other thing is that you have to remember there actually are rules set in place. There are guidelines that the people that vote for the CFP every year, they follow. And one of them is strength of schedule and strength of conference as well, by the way. So if your conference wasn't that strong, but your strength of schedule might have been very good, that is a bonus or a plus that gets you into the playoff. Again, people like UCF complain because they make headlines. It's not because they truly believe that they're actually national championships. It's because
you'd be shocked.
Yeah, the fans are stupid. The board isn't.
Well, the other thing, and this is actually the safest point. The CFP has these guidelines, but their main kicker is an eye test. And that's how they pick the top 4. They get away with it, yeah. It's the eye test. And you know what? Their eye test wasn't wrong. I mean, yeah, you could say Notre Dame wasn't as good. And if Florida didn't mess up, they would have been number 4. If 100%. UGA would have kept Justin Fields, they would have been number 4. There's a lot of ifs out there.
Feelings. Look, I want the listener, because I don't want the listener to think I'm a crazy person, never want me back on the podcast. I do believe the right teams are in the finals. All of this is just to say that we could do this in a more entertaining, reasonable way so that we're not sitting here debating who should be number 4 or number 3. At the end of the day, the College Football Committee, year after year, has proven that the best couple of teams end up doing this thing every year, right? It's rare that we could sit here and argue that, this team didn't belong. In all likelihood, the final is who the final should be with, right? It has been that way for quite some time. I'm hard-pressed to remember the last final where we're like, well, how did this team end up here?
Notre Dame, Alabama.
How long ago was that?
Notre Dame, Alabama. That was the first college football playoff, I believe.
We're talking.
No. That was actually the last. 2012 was the last year before exactly the college football.
So that was the last BCS.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Okay.
So
no. Didn't Clemson destroy Alabama a few years ago?
You're talking about?
Yeah, they did actually.
Watson?
Clemson destroyed Alabama about 2 years ago.
And I will ask you now, in hindsight, they lost, but does that team not belong there in the final? Right?
Well,
any team would have lost that year, right? Clemson.
Yeah,
Clemson was genuinely that good. He was a god.
Yeah. Well, I think that was Trevor Lawrence's first year, actually.
Oh, we doing Trevor Lawrence's first year. Ooh.
That was Trevor Lawrence's first year, I believe.
I don't know why. It was last year, guys. 44-16. It was last year.
It's been a long year, guys. It's been a long year.
2020 feels like it's been about 9 years put together. And I think, it is what it is.
But then I think the year before we had UGA Alabama, which was a great one. So I mean, normally you do get the right. Normally it works out fine.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what I was gonna say.
No matter how the game is played, I still believe the 2 teams in the final belong in the final. Even if Alabama got killed last year, I'd be hard pressed to say any other team was genuinely better. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and that's I think it brings up a good point, which is we usually get the best teams. The best team wins every year in every sport. If you look at baseball this year, the Dodgers won, the Lakers won. Last year, the Chiefs won. The best team usually ends up winning because they're the best team, right? I mean, there's like very few exceptions where the best team maybe did not win. 72-9 Warriors,
The
Dallas
Washington
Mavericks
Nationals from a couple years ago.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, it's very rare that the best team doesn't actually win. And then I just wanted to point out that Ohio State, Alabama played in the playoff semifinal, and Ohio State won the first CFP playoff. Florida State, I believe, won the last BCS championship and the first BCS championship. That was the Jameis Winston year where they eat the W's, And then the only other thing I want to say is, look, regardless of what happened in the college football playoff, aren't we all collectively happy that we don't have Clemson versus Alabama in the national championship again? Like, can we at least say, like, hey, this is the least refreshing where the college football playoff game is not going to come down to Clemson or Alabama. Alabama's still in it, but they have a different opponent that arguably could have been in the game 2 years ago or last year, right? I mean,
Yeah. Well, last year we got LSU, Clemson, I believe.
Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which was different. But I want to see a national championship without Alabama or Clemson. I want both of them out.
Well, that's up to everybody else to do it, and that goes back to the original.
Right.
Sorry, guys.
So maybe
Well,
Ohio State
Alabama's
might
fault
do it.
they're good.
Am I the weird one that actually enjoys watching them play each other just to see who the best head coach is out of the both of them? Like, obviously it is Nick Saban.
It's Saban. Saban's a better head
Yeah,
coach.
but like Dabo has done a good job with Clemson. The way he's turned that franchise, that team around has been insane.
Yeah.
They make
Yeah,
franchises
I mean,
money
they're
too.
going to be good for years to come. I think really it's on Ohio State. Surprise the nation. Go out there and beat the mighty Nick Saban.
Look,
beat the Heisman favorite. Yeah.
All I can hope for is Urban Meyer goes to some college. I don't know where he's going to go. Maybe to USC. Maybe Steve Sarkisian gets fired after a year and he goes to Texas. And Urban Meyer brings another team into this because I need another player.
Are you ready for Urban Meyer where he's actually going?
Oh, you're talking about Jacksonville?
He's going to Jacksonville. Why would he not go to Jacksonville? Here,
Well, it's like we discussed, right?
Urban Meyer's about to get the Jay Gruden treatment or John Gruden treatment with a 10-year, $100 million contract, boy. Why else would he leave that cushy job? He's got a great job commentating.
I'll tell you why, because Urban Meyer isn't a good NFL coach.
He's done it before.
And college coaches do a lot less than you think. They recruit.
Yeah. But like we talked
you can't
about
recruit in the NFL.
Jacksonville, right? They got the first pick. They'll get their quarterback that they want, likely Trevor Lawrence. They have $100 million in cap space and an awesome job opening. Urban Meyer could go there, shit his pants, but still make $100 million over the next 10 years. What does he care? Go make that money, dude. Go make that money.
If Urban Meyer goes to Texas, he'll get paid $100 million as well. So, I mean, he may get pulled.
That job is not open right now.
The job
will be open
dude,
next
if
year.
Urban Meyer makes a phone call right now, Steve Sarkisian is back on the Falcons somehow.
No, he'll be back on the Alabama staff. He'll be back on the Alabama staff.
Just for that, please don't make the phone call, Urban. Please.
Yeah. So, okay. So we can wrap it up here. The last thing we'll say is Alabama, Ohio State national championship game. We can agree that it's probably the two best teams in the country right now. Should be a really good game. I don't know what's going to happen, but you got the Heisman favorite, the Heisman finalist, and probably the Heisman winner on Alabama on one team. You have three guys who can win that award.
You have four Heisman's playing in this team, and three of them are in Alabama.
Yep.
Right. And then the other one is going to be the number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft. Is that right, Nabil?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. So I know it's great. This is going to be awesome. We've got a great weekend of football ahead. I know we're going to be on your show tomorrow at Bears, Birds, and Brews at WBEM Pod. I'm gonna let you go safe, and then the Bill H and the Bill L. Your final thoughts. You can say whatever you want to close out this first collaboration episode between our shows. Go for it.
Well, first off, thanks for having us. Like I said, WBEM Pod, quite literally on all social media channels that you will find us on. We're your basketball podcast. These guys are your football podcast, and obviously your beer podcast. Go Lakers 2021. I'm out.
Oh my God. So I agree with Safe. Thanks for having us on. We appreciate it. Hopefully we can do a lot more of these collabs in the future. I love talking football. I could literally go for hours. Go Mavs. We can't wait to see you guys on the podcast tomorrow.
Oh yeah. Go take it home.
Definitely excited for the podcast tomorrow. Be a lot of fun. We're gonna talk a lot of Trae Young and Luka Doncic. I'm gonna make that happen. But
Let's do it.
last thoughts. I need someone in the Bears Saints game to get slimed on Nickelodeon. So first prediction, Trubisky will get slimed.
Trubisky, take that however you want.
Puppy.
Yeah. What's up, Safe? You got anything?
No, that just sounds disgusting.
Well,
What do you mean?
Sounded really good. We
It's
appreciate
Nickelodeon.
y'all
You get
tuning
slimed.
in. At Bears, Spurs, and Brews, at Waterboy Equipment Manager. Playoffs. Talking about playoffs. All right? Playoffs. See ya.
See ya.